Okay, we finished our hat assembly. Now we are assembling B. So here's our parts. We need to discover where those are in our piles over here. Let's grab them. Okay. Okay, it's important that we have them in order. So I'll just grab them over here. It's in my pile. So first set of instructions says attach number 2 to number 1. So number 2 is the back of the head to the top of the head. All right. So that's going to be like that. Before we do that, let's fold this down a little, and we'll do our gentle fold all the way around. Great. Same with the back. All right, I think we can start gluing now. Let's apply glue to that flap. So I got a big glob right there. I'm going to smooth it out with one of my toothpicks. That'll help from any of the glue bleeding out onto the rest of the project where we don't want it. Okay, so we want to line the corners the best we can, and we want the edge of the back of the head right on the crease of that score mark. Best we can align that. Okay, attach number 3 to number 2. This is number 3. Let's give all these flaps a bit of a bend. Okay, as you can see, the edges are aligned, and that's glued. This white paper is a little, it glues a little faster than the black. Just beware of that. Okay, now the next flap. Just train that portion of the paper just by doing that. Okay, so this is a little tricky, but essentially we're just going to fold that down, make sure they align. These flaps end up like teeth, almost like a zipper, so they'll be going alternating on the side of each of these parts. And that actually makes it a lot easier to put together because we know when the fold, where the flap will need to be located for each time you glue it. Okay, so I think that's done. All right, so we're gonna do a little bit of glue on multiple flaps at a time. Let's see. So we'll just put a little glue right on the end of each of these. Let's just do 3. Don't go any more. If you go too many, then you run the risk of that glue drying before you get to the actually attaching things. All right. So as we close this, make sure that they're folding into each other really nicely. Okay. And then we can kind of hold that last flap down. And then come back and just press this together. And as you can see, I didn't really push very hard on the back side. It actually did that by itself. Okay, so that glued really well. Let's do the rest of this. Okay, so it's a little difficult to get under there, but just want to get a little bit of glue right under there. Okay. I got a little glue on my thumb there. I'm just gonna wipe that off. All right. I'm just going to press on that one, and then we'll press here. Let's try to keep the seam as clean as possible by aligning the edge where those flaps are scored to the edge where the other side flaps are scored, and that should keep it really nice and clean. All right, that's kind of what it looks like when you get those edges all aligned. Okay, now we can move on to the next shape. Attach number 4 to number 2, then fold and glue to number 3 on the flap, one flap at a time. So this is number 4, and we're going to glue it there, and then glue it there, and then we'll glue one flap at a time as we go around. Oh, before we glue anymore, I forgot, we gotta bend this slightly. Almost forgot the step. Doesn't need a lot, just a little press on each one of those flaps. There we go. Okay, get some glue on both these larger flaps. Okay, so I'm making sure that that corner looks really nice right there. So that's going to be more visible than this one, and just in the way that this is orientated. Okay, now we're going to press this second flap that I glued. Press that down. Great. Okay, let's get some glue on these flaps. It's okay to miss a couple flaps, these tiny flaps. Not every one needs to be perfectly attached. There's enough of them that it can be spotty as far as what's actually holding the assembly together. Okay. Alright, so the critical aspect of this attachment is making sure that the edge of this paper aligns with the score of those flaps. And try not to show any gaps between the teeth of the flaps. And it's a bit of a challenge, but just as you go, just kind of press and hold each one. And remember, this is this bends into shape, so try to keep that in mind as you glue it, that it's not a flat piece. It actually is going to bend into the curve of the head, or the sort of the side of the head, almost like the cheekbones of his face. You know, if it doesn't glue exactly where you want it the first try, that's okay. Mine is kind of falling away, so it's actually kind of a better idea to press and hold every 3 or 4 flaps. Not every not every flap, but like skip 2 or 3 of them. And make sure they're folded. All right. This might be helpful. Let's try attaching the last flap, and I'm going to put pressure on that so that they line up where I need them to line right there. That flap at the end is a little bit larger. You'll have better luck at keeping that glued, since these little ones tend to get pulled away from the bend of the paper. So put a little bit of stress on those attachments as we bend the paper into shape. Okay, so now I've moved down a little bit, kind of to the middle, and I am pressing on that. So just kind of push that up into there. Make sure we're not showing any of the gaps between the flaps best you can. We're kind of looking at this in a different orientation than it will be presented anyway. So we're not going to be looking up into those flaps. We'll be looking down like that. So as you see, all of those imperfections kind of blend away. All right, so I'll have to put a little more glue on that later. That kind of ripped. Okay, after I've got number 4, attach number 3. Repeat opposite side, it says. So there's another 3 and 4. Okay. So this other side is what we're talking about. So let's repeat this on the other side. It's exactly the same thing. Okay, I've got that put together. There were some flaps in there that just did not want to hold, so I've had to use some of this zip kicker accelerant to get that to hold faster. So that was a little frustrating, but I got it to stick. Let's fold these flaps a little bit, just enough to. So basically what we're going to be doing here is adding the faceplate, which more or less is right straight across there. So we're folding it to create a plane. Right. So let's get these flaps down like that. And the first thing we're going to glue is these guys. Let's put just a little bit of glue there. Alright, so we want to make that seam match the edge of that faceplate the best you can. In order to do that, I'm kind of flexing. I am flexing that paper a bit where I've previously glued the last step. So it's kind of hard to show you because of the way I'm holding it, but I'm pulling down on that lower cheek flap. Alright, so I feel pretty good about that. Just going to press it down a little bit. Okay. Got to twist to bring my finger out of there. Okay. Get some glue on the center and over here. Alright, so if you've got it assembled properly, then you can kind of flex the sides of the face, and it will flatten it out and look really clean. So that's how you want it to look, like that. Okay, let's do the back plate, the back face plate. Okay, so we have the black portion here, and let me show you how this works. We're going to be attaching the eyes on the inside, and then once that's all glued, we'll place it right on the inside and glue it down. So here we've got these guys, and they kind of just fold like that. Okay. So okay, so the flaps are going to come down this way. Okay, instead of folding it away, let's fold it as a valley, because that allows our flaps to glue to the surface to pull back this way a lot easier. All right, so let's bend these almost 90 degrees from the original orientation. There we go. Like that, and then bend it this way. Now if you put the interior portion of the eye down on the ground, and we're bending it around this way, you'll notice that one side, kind of hard to see that way, but you'll see that this side right here, this one closest to the camera, that one is a little bit taller than that one. That means we want this one to be on the inside of the face. So right there. So that orients it to the right. Okay. Alright, so let's throw some glue on these flaps and attach it to the back plate. Right. Okay, so you can tell that inside flap is a little bit higher, just barely. And the reason for that is when we glue it in, this whole plate, it will flex inward like this, and that creates a plane on the inside to match right up to the front of your phone. Okay, let's do the other one. So there we go. Should have enough flex that way so we can fit it right in there. Alright, don't put the teeth on yet. That's the last thing we're going to do. So we'll just put those there. So that's going to go in like this. Let's put some glue on the front. Alright, so I'm just looking at this from the front so that I've kind of pinched right between the eyes to make sure that that matches. And, okay, now that I'm looking at it here, oh, I messed up. I glued a little bit on the nose. That's okay, that'll dry. We'll just wipe that off a little bit. Last but not least, we are going to do our teeth. So the crooked portion on the flat end of this is where we're going to be gluing. Alright, so if you want kind of a guide of how the teeth could look, just kind of look at the front. So you want that tooth to kind of stick out to the left. There we go. And then the next one, there we are. That's how my teeth turned out. I prefer mine to be spread apart in a V shape a little bit more. You don't have to do it that way. You could put them together. You can put them further apart, however you'd like. Alright, so now we've got a hat and we got the head. So it's more technically the faceplate and the cheeks. So let's put that over here and move on to C. So you got the top and the bottom. The larger one is the top, the smaller one is the bottom. and they're going to be oriented like this. First thing we want to do is fold the flaps. Don't bother folding this long one, this long edge. Don't fold that one just yet. So we'll just gently bend these larger pieces so that it's starting to curve in the shape that we want. And then we're going to fold these to a 90 degree angle off of the opposite side. There we go. And do the same to the top. We're folding in or down to make a mountain shape. There we go. All right, one flap at a time. Put a little glue on the edge. Grab the large piece and we'll start attaching these two together. Okay, just like before, we're trying to be accurate with the edge of the paper. Try to get that as accurate as possible. There we go. Okay, next flap. Oh. All right, so just going to press down there. Make sure that this feels fairly flat and sturdy, being held together pretty well. All right, now we can do the top, or I guess technically the bottom. That's the orientation like this. There we go. Okay, our next assembly is D. And so there's several pieces of white here. Let's grab all those. So D, attach 1 to 2 and 3 to 4. So this is 1 and 2. So basically, oh no it's not. We got something flipped around. There we go. Make sure the score lines are on top. Kind of hard to see, but score lines on top. That's where the seam will attach. Okay. Let's get some glue on there. I don't know if you noticed, but I did not bother to fold that flap before I glued it, because I can easily just fold it after the fact. And sometimes it's easier to attach the flaps when they're unfolded. In this case, that is definitely true. Okay, so that's attached. Okay, so on this one, we're going to do that. Okay, now we're going to attach everything to number 5. So number 5 is the smaller one. Let's put this one over here. Okay, so let's go over how this folds. Once this is completely dry, we're going to fold these portions like that. Okay, more like bending it. bend that, bend this. And then this is actually a valley. So making sure that that is completely dry, it's much easier when it's dry. We'll just pull that up like that. Okay, and then these bend down. You can be a little more aggressive with these bends. So that's how that should look. The way this attaches is actually like this. So we've got this piece here. What we're going to do, the score lines are on top, right? So we'll just bend them down, and you want to do a 90 on these. And they're going to glue to this portion vertically like this. So just flip it around. That's how it's going to be gluing down. So if you can see that right there, just like that. Okay, so let's get some glue on this first little triangle. Let's get these little guys down like this. Okay. Let's leave this unglued. That's going to help us attach the next portion. Alright, that's what it should look like for now. Let's grab the other portion. And so we're going to need to bend this the similar way. So you could take this portion where it got glued and bend that up. So repeat that process one more time. Put the glue on the very first little triangle and glue him first. Alright, let's glue the seam up here. Before we glue this down there, that'll be the last thing we want to do. Alright, the next thing is this small strip of paper here. It's going to connect the front portion of the jaw. So this is kind of the jaw of the face. So the first thing, let's fold these flaps down, bend them down. Just like that. So we're going to bridge this right across here, leaving the slot open for our phone. Let's get some glue on this side. do your best to align it as perfectly as possible. This guy's going on the top, but before we do that, we need our yellow interior to come down into the base and glue in. So to do this, what we'll need is a little bit of glue on the base, right there. And then as we bring this down, the alignment we're looking for are, well, it's right here. Let me see if I can show you a little better. So, yeah, like this edge right there. And if you see in the corners here, you can kind of see right there. I want that corner to align, and as well as the opposite corner. So those are the points of alignment that we're looking for. And we're also going to be gluing the flap on the inside. So we're going to have to do that simultaneously, because once you get it in there, you don't have any space for your hand. But we'll glue along this flap and that flap and the base, put it in, and then press it down. So you can see right there is where we're going to be pressing. So this flap is going to align with that flap there. Okay. So the best place to put glue in this scenario is right along the outside. We'll put some in the middle too. I do it just about like a centimeter in, like a handful of millimeters in, not all the way to the outside. Allow for that glue to spread without oozing out. Okay, so here we go. This edge right there, that's what we're going for. If you don't get it perfectly on the first set down, you know, the glue, it doesn't dry instantly, so you have a little bit of give. Alright, so that looks pretty good. I'll just press that down. Okay. And then match the top right there. Just match the top and press all the way down. Like that. And then the other side, same story. You can see I matched the top of the flaps. And then apply a little pressure all the way down. Okay, just making sure that came together pretty well. And just make sure that's all good. All right. Now we've got our top portion, and just want to make sure these are bent correctly. Alright, so what we're going to do, we'll glue that in like this, then bend it down and glue each flap one at a time. Okay? So before we start gluing though, let's make sure these can bend down. ahead and do that all the way around. Some glue right there. Alright, just making sure that that's attached. We'll use my tweezers. There we go. Alright, now we got our top there. Let's get some glue on this flap. Use my tweezers here just to get that flap in there. Just kind of gently nudge it along. There we go. Bent a little bit, that's okay. Alright, you just want to make sure that this inner edge, this fold here, is nice and clean. There. That piece is a little bent, but that's okay. That's not critical. There. Should feel very sturdy.